mission given to me by Woody Shaw, Sunship, Dizzy, and John Kahn, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my music heroes. This is The Jake Feinberg Show.
I went down by the river, walking in the sand, with my Louisiana woman, heavy on my mind. The tide was coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, right on time. Blue was in the water, like the color in her eyes, and on my mind.
Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. It's sweltering out there in the old Pueblo, but we really appreciate you coming inside or wherever you are today to make us part of your day today. My show revolves around the 4 L's: leadership, love, life, and lineage, and the ongoing story of real music made by real artists. The unincorporated land of Louisiana, where the Native Americans of all descents were unencumbered by cultural biases and norms. These were small communes of different peoples who were bombastic and playing regional music of the swamps. My guest plays Cajun Fiddle in myriads of settings, and his musicianship and entertaining capacities are in the same class as Professor Longhair and Bill Monroe, Dolly Parton, and John Lee Hooker. He grooves and growls, playing Live Aid benefits for the farmers who toiled that unincorporated land where my guest dwelled with Louisiana women and Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash. My guest came of age when the music industry was regionally based, with different sounds that emanated from the swamps and the bogs and the mountains and the parks and the urban squalor. However you square it, my guest has all these elements in his music, which is why it is such a treat to have him up with us live today. Doug Kershaw, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. How you doing, man? Good to hear you. We hear you good. Yeah, no, it's an honor to have you on the program, man.
Well, thank you, sir.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, can you please explain to the audience what, the kind of land that you grew up on, this unincorporated land, and the kind of community that you were raised in?
Yeah. Well, actually, my father was a fisherman, a trapper, a hunter. So I was born on a houseboat. They used to follow, the fish and the alligators and whatever it is. That's where we'd go. I was born on a houseboat at Teal Ridge, Louisiana. And then we moved inland in Lake Arthur, Louisiana when I was 7.
Now, okay, so for 7 years you lived on a houseboat.
Oh, yes. Spoke Cajun French only.
Okay, can you please talk about that experience? I mean, for my generation and younger generations, that I would just love to know how you spent your time and how much actually improvisation or maybe creativity you developed during those first 7 years that you maybe brought into your professional career as a musician.
Well, we didn't have much choice, but we did learn how to play music from my mother's experience, instruments, and that was our survival. After my dad, when I was 7, well, I utilized that. It was pretty hairy, hunting alligators today is one thing, but back then they used to have to walk those swamps. And I never walked with my dad, but I've seen him scaling fish and all that stuff. I followed that.
Oh my! He had to walk in the swamp. He had to walk the swamps to find, and so he would just step on them, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you see, they had holes, and they'd find those holes, and they'd poke them till they came out, and then they'd grab them. But, the song Louisiana Man is a tribute to my dad and my family, how they survived before I was 7.
Can you talk about that? I mean, I know that
Sure.
song, but talk about how they survived.
I'm sorry? Well, they fished, they trapped, they hunt, and they moved the houseboat from place to place, It all according to where the alligators were or where the fish was biting and so forth and so on. So we were mavericks. I mean, not mavericks, but almost gypsy-like, back there.
I love it. No, I consider myself a gypsy in my mind, but
Me too, man.
how? Let me ask you a question. Why did you relocate to Colorado?
Well, my wife is from Denver, okay?
Ah, I see. Okay.
We married in the Astrodome in 1975.
Oh my!
And
That's sick.
and then we were in Los Angeles for 9 years. And when my kids, our two older boys, started school, one day I brought them to school, and it reminded me of an old saying back in the Cajun country that if you get at the door and they check you for knives and guns, if you didn't have any, they'd give you some, And I said, we've got to get away from this. It didn't feel good. So, of course, she wanted to move back to Colorado, which turned out really good for me because it's middle of the country. You can fly anywhere from Denver.
Doug, it's really just such a high honor to talk to you. I mean, I've interviewed some of the cats from New Orleans and in that area, but
Sure.
There's this one album. I mean, I need you to tell me what the meaning of swamp grass is. I mean,
Swamp grass?
Is it?
Well,
yeah. Is it? I just want to
sure.
see. I think it's like a blending of Cajun with bluegrass, but I really want you to break
No,
it down.
it has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
The song, the lyrics, is about these swamp critters. They feed on this stuff.
Which critters?
All the critters need their swamp grass.
Oh, they need the swamp grass. So it's actually okay. So it's okay. Right on.
And that's what it's all about.
When you
That's what the critters need to feed on, and what we need to feed on. We feed on the critters. The critters feed on all this other stuff.
when you got inland, can you talk about the process of learning English? Were there other?
Oh, sure.
Were there other?
Sure.
I think this is just so important because, I mean,
Yeah.
you were a Native American, but yet you didn't speak English. So you spoke French Creole, is that right?
No, it's French Cajuns. It's Acadian from the Canadian, Nova Scotia, which was at one time called Acadia, and they were exported or exiled. And my parents, their parents, they wound up in the swamps of Louisiana. Learning how to speak English. Well, when I was thrown in school by 7, they put me in the 3rd grade, okay? And they would not allow the French to be spoken. So it was a big thing for me because they never explained why. And this was World War II, middle of World War II, so you didn't question too many things. As a matter of fact, because they wouldn't let me speak or teach me the French, I had to learn English. I never told them I could play music because I didn't want them to take that away from me.
Wow.
That's how ignorant I was. But, it was tough, but I wound up with a nice education in English. I can still speak fluent Cajun French, but I can't read or write it.
You can speak.
I sing it. When I sing the Cajun French, I write little notes in English, and I just sing it.
Unbelievable. I mean, this is unbelievable. So you just sort of in your own mind as a 3rd grader, you were afraid they were going to strip you of your musical capacities, but
Yeah. They stripped me of my language.
right, and they never explained why. Right.
We're barefooted and coming out of the swamp, ignorant as heck. But it didn't take me long, man, because my brother handed me a shoeshine box when he started playing fiddle for bands for our survival. I got the shoeshine box. I was close to 8. Went in town in Lake Arthur, and there were 2 black boys that chased me out, chased me away because that was their living. One day, I brought my fiddle with me, and the sun hadn't come up yet. I sat down on the steps of the red and white cafe, started playing my fiddle. Pretty soon the sun come up and people started gathering around. I took my fiddle and I put it away. They said, "No, don't stop playing." I said, "Well, now, if you would give me 10 cents, I'll shine your shoes and I'll play you a song." My man, I come home that night with $10.20.
That was a lot of money. That was a lot.
Oh, my God. In 1943, I learned right then and there I could make a lot more money playing fiddle.
Wow.
And shining shoes. Isn't that incredible to learn that lesson?
I think that just to have you tell that story on Power Talk 1210 is just what my show is really about, and the idea that would you say that that you were able to meld with the other ethnic people there?
Sure.
I mean, can you talk about some of the indigenous people, maybe black or even Native Americans that you played music with, please? Yeah.
Well, it's mostly the blacks, because here's a story, and it's a true story. Those two little black boys, after I started making money by bringing my fiddle, we got to be friends, I always thought, well, first of all, because they took my language away, I always thought they thought less of the Cajuns than they even did the black. And, that was pretty damn low. But one day, I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and I finally asked one of the little black boys, I said, "Where do Cajuns go?" They had black, and then they had colored and white.
Right.
And I said, "Where do Cajuns go to the bathroom?" Is that something? That's how low I thought we were.
Did you thought that, or that was the truth, or that was real?
Well, that's the truth.
Wow.
That's the truth. I didn't know which one to use.
You became friends with them, and the common overarching bond just the ability to just jam and play music together?
Oh, yeah. Well, you see, we used to do that all the time. But growing up, Sunday afternoon, we'd all gather at somebody's house and play music. We didn't ask what color you were. Hey, you want to play some music? I learned how to play music, and I keep saying music, by listening to jukeboxes while shining shoes. One song would be String of Pearls,
Mm-hmm.
and the next song might be Unencumbered. Well, I never learned those categories. I just learned music. I write music. I don't write them as a country song or a rock and roll or nothing. To me, I think it's been a blessing because there's no barriers that way.
You're exactly right. I mean, I've been focusing on that, your generation, the idea that there were, but when did that come to being? Because when you got lined up with Warner Brothers, you started to crank out all sorts of albums, and then in the Tower Records or whatever store it was, where were they putting Doug Kershaw? I mean, they had
every department.
Every department.
And they started. Well, I was with them 8 years before they started a country department.
Really?
And that screwed my career up. Because I don't want nobody to label me.
Right.
If you like my music, good. Call me what you want. Just like me.
Well, it's either good or bad, right? I mean, it's just
exactly.
music. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't put me in a category where you don't like me because of the category.
I want you to talk about Gary Bart's really amazing horn player. Talks about jazz as a confining word, but why don't you want to be confined, Doug? Why does that hurt the ability for you to express yourself?
Okay, well, it goes back to when I started learning how to play music. I listened to jukeboxes. They didn't confine me. Whatever was playing, if it was Only Blonde by Harry Schultz or String of Pearls by Glenn Miller, nobody told me that was a pop song. And I didn't want to be classified. Maybe it might have hurt me, but man, 40, 50,000 albums later, I still became a personality because of that and television. People accept my music, I think, a lot because I was on so many television shows and trying to explain myself. And how do you explain your own self?
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
Right.
You can't. I just dashed out songs. Some might fit, but some might not. And I also wrote for the mass too. I wish I could write another Louisiana Man, but I wouldn't dare try because there's only one of them.
when was the? Can you talk about your first encounter with Johnny Cash?
Yeah. We was in 1955. The Louisiana hayride was going on, so my brother and I rushed in, Doug. We signed up for the Louisiana hayride, but at the same time, here was Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and just name them, you know. We've been friends. Johnny and I have been friends since '55. We toured together many times with Ruskin, and then as a solo artist, he gave me a chance to be who I wanted to be.
Can you go a little bit deeper? What do you mean he gave you a chance? I mean, when you came on his program, or what?
Well, when I started my solo career,
mm-hmm.
I had just signed a contract, but I was playing the Black Poodle in Nashville, Tennessee, at Printer's Alley. You know, I was making $600 a week paying a band and buying all the drinks, but I had to make noise. And all of a sudden, somebody printed something in the newspaper raving about it, and they were filming they're starting to film and cast the Johnny Cash show. So he said, "My God, this is who we need, him and Dylan," you know. I said, "Okay." They made me more than an audition, but they made me play a show at ABC and Johnny Jr. there. And the next thing I knew, they gave me an offer of either be on 7 shows, you know, the whole season, or be on the premiere with him and Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan. Well, of course, if I'm going to stand up and be with the big boys and girls, I said I'll do the premiere. So he gave me a chance to do that.
Wow. This is fantastic stuff. Now, you just jarred my memory on another thing I wanted to ask you about. You know, did you say you were working the Chitlin circuit, or was it just black clubs in Tennessee? Did you ever do any type of Chitlin circuit?
It was called the Black Poodle, but it was a nightclub in Printer's Alley.
Wow. What can you paint the picture for me? It's the kind of club I would like to marinate in every night.
Oh, yeah. Well, Printer's Alley had people like Boots Randolph,
mm-hmm.
Chet Atkins. You know, they play one club, I play another. And every week they had different people from the Nashville performing there. You know, they didn't pay anything, but it did give you exposure. And I kind of liked it. Of course, doing 6 shows a night for $600 a week, Lord God. Hey, but that's the price I paid.
You know, let's play a piece of music here. We're talking to Doug Kershaw, legendary Cajun fiddler, but again, we're not labeling anybody. Let's take a listen to this, Doug, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Yeah.
It's too bad you don't have any energy and that you have no magic in you.
Well, they told me to lay back tonight.
Now, what is that French expression called "let the good times roll"? How you say that?
Laisse les bons temps rouler, chat.
Can you folks say that? Come on, let's do it. Yeah, let's do Louisiana Saturday night.
When you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow, you kick off your shoes and you throw on the floor. You dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
Waiting in the front yard, sitting on a log, a single shot rifle and a one-eyed dog.
Oh, yonder come the kid folks in the moonlight. Louisiana Saturday night.
When you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow, you kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. You dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
My brother Bill and my other brother Jackie got a belly full of beer and a possum in a sack.
Got 15 kids on the porch light in Louisiana Saturday night.
When the kin folks leave and the kids get dead, me and my woman gonna slip off to
We're
bed.
gonna have a little fun when we turn out the lights. Louisiana Saturday night.
When you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow, you kick off.
Well, we're only about 6-7 hours away from Saturday night, but I'll tell you, Doug Kershaw, man. I mean, tell me how much fun was it to play with Dolly Parton?
Oh, my God.
I mean,
Tremendous.
because you guys had such a good, I mean, tell me about how your relationship really cultivated to the point where you guys became so, you guys were so energetic together and so comfortable together. How did it get to that
Oh,
point?
yeah. Well, first of all, I met her on the Porter Wagner TV shows, you know, I used to do. And I loved her. And, you know, I started playing in Nevada. was Lake Tahoe and Harris. And I finally worked my way up to the main room, you know. And they asked me, who do you want to open for me? I said, Dolly Parton. I said, who? I said, Dolly Parton. So I called her manager, and they played for almost nothing. But I was the one that brought her in and introduced her to the casinos in Nevada. Next thing you know, 6 months later, she's making $100,000 a week. But, you know, that's how much confidence I had in her. You know, some people should not be limited. She's one of them. Johnny Cash was one of them. Elvis. You know, a lot of people should not be limited.
Do you feel like in the construct of the music, it's not an industry anymore, really, it's more of a business, but do you feel that that musicians are more stifled today, or everyone there's a limit on everything now? Are the shackles very hard, and what would be your advice to younger musicians?
The only thing I find in country music, anyhow, is they're grinding out the same pattern all the time. Not all of them, but they do. And the only advice I would suggest is some of these new artists, ones that are going to be new artists, should listen to the stuff and to the people that started all of this. You know, the rock and roll. You know, all of us had part in this, a big part.
Would you say that
rockabilly, rock and roll?
Right. Would you say that
it was raw, man?
No. When you say they're grinding the rhythms, two questions. What does that mean? And then also,
grinding the songs. They have the same chord progressions and same tempos, and the lyrics are basically the same format.
Right.
You know.
And explain something like, okay, so because this is all cyclical stuff, but when you talk a little bit about when you were getting early on in your professional career, and you were hearing the formatted stuff. What did you do differently? Can you name a particular song that you were like, I'm just going to go outside the box and do these different? I'm going to do a different sketch. Can you point to something like that?
You see, I had the Cajun background, which I'm talking about the feel and the patterns and the stuff. But when we started with my brother and I, Rustin Doug, we do 4 songs per session. One they allow me to write, and the other people's songs. But anyone that hit was the ones I wrote because we did them. You see, what I did, I used the English language. I took all the music I know, the feelings I know, and the patterns of these songs, and I put them in English.
Is there a song that you can point to for the audience that they can go look for?
Louisiana Man, Diggy Diggy Low. Cajun Stripper, that's an old Cajun song, yeah, stuff like that. If I wasn't going to fight the English language, so in other words, to broaden my culture, and that's what I wanted to do, get my culture out to the world, and I managed pretty good.
Can you talk about the origins of, a lot of people will say jazz was born in Harlem or Louisiana, or I would like you to talk about your experiences in jazz and some of the cats.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. What was the closest thing that Kershaw, again, we're not using labels, but I mean, talk a little bit about New Orleans' contributions to jazz.
The Pete Fountain and Herb, what's the name of? I know he's recorded my song. All of these guys it's fantastic. I did a tour in Europe with Herbie Mann. Backed him up.
What? What year was that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
All of Germany. Oh boy, that was 78, maybe 8, 9.
Kershaw and Herbie Mann was so outside the box. I mean, can you talk about on stage how professionals communicate like that in terms of trust? I mean, that is not Herbie was never a conventional cat.
Not at all.
But
not at all.
Yeah. How did you guys communicate musically?
Go ahead. What was it like? Oh, it was fantastic. I was able to do my show, my band, and me could back him. You know, music is music. Music is simple. I don't care if you label it jazz. They all have melodies, chord progression. And I loved Herbie Mann. Pete Fountain, oh my God.
You know, can you, there's a lot of conflicting reports out there, but I do believe he's in hospice. Could you just talk about B.B. King and your relationship, if you had one with him, or his significance to music in general?
You're talking about the jazz rhythm?
No, B.B. King.
Is that what you're saying?
B.B. King.
Oh, B.B.
Yeah,
King.
B.B. King. He's not
Last
great.
time we played together was at New Orleans Jazz Fest. He and I on the same stage. B.B. Well, here's my formula, and I guarantee you it's B.B.'s formula: simplicity and repetition. He is so damn good. He can milk one note forever. You know what I mean? You call him what you want, but B.B. King is, oh boy, he's big time in my mind.
I think that you're far enough along, established that where you can. I just want you to talk to younger cats, artists, about unconventional ways that you wrote so much original music. Can you talk about, some people will say, I just think about a theme and I write a song. Some people can't do that and they need to get a melody in their head. What are some of the unconventional ways that you developed your own songs?
Well, I would just start strumming like guitar and humming. I'm pretty soon an idea would come to my mind. All you need is the idea, because I figured out how to write a song in my teens. The format, and just build a story. I love to write story songs. Bully of the Bayou and all that stuff. But yeah, it's not what you write first; it's how you finish it.
Can you go farther with that?
Can I go further? Sure. I mean, if you get a melody in your head, put it down. If you don't have an idea for lyrics, then leave it as an instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have an idea, because it's always easier to put a melody to lyrics than it is lyric to melody.
How much writing are you doing today?
Not too much, only when I need to. But I've got almost 500 songs recorded.
I mean, it's unbelievable, Kershaw.
Catalog.
Kershaw, I mean, Kershaw, I dig for a lot of records, and I got to tell you, I mean, just the propensity of stuff that you were cranking out during this period of time from the late 60s through the early 70s is just profound. And there was just, did you have, I know on that Swampgrass album you had great bass players. His name's escaping me right now, but then Kenny Malone was on drums. Did you have a set rhythm section during those times, or was it always kind of changing up?
No, it was kind of changing up. So a lot of them were the same musicians, but they would actually sit down and say, how do you want me to play this? And I'd give them an example, and they took it on their own and interpreted what I needed.
How important did you consider the accompanist? How much did you value the accompanist?
Oh, absolutely great. Like, oh my God, on harmonica, man. Charlie McCoy. He and I sat down for a week, and he wanted to learn how to play my Cajun Fiddle, and he did it. He played in every record I ever made.
So you knew Hargus, Pig Robbins, and
oh yeah,
oh
man.
my,
even Charlie Daniels were on my sessions before I knew he could play fiddle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Kershaw, we barely scratched the surface here. Could you talk about your concept of one of the L's on my program is love. And I just wanted you to talk about your concept of love and how you bring it to people.
Well, first of all, I love people, period. I feel safe with people around me. I guess that comes from being in the swamps. And with nobody around you, you feel safe when people are around you. But love is interpreted by the individual. When I write a song, in my mind, I say, wow, Joe Blow could identify with this, The last song I just wrote is called I'll Get to It. Tell me to do it and I'll get to it. Might take a while, but I'll get to it. Who hasn't been through that?
Mm-hmm.
God, it's hard to explain my catalog. Well, I wish somebody would start digging into my catalog and record them as today,
Right.
Today's music. Because it's there, they're all there.
Well, Doug, we're going to talk. I mean, I feel like it was. We have a lot more to get to, my friend, and it's an honor to connect with you, man. And you're just part of that brotherhood that came up with no labels, and we'll keep plugging away. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Anytime, and it's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right,
Bye.
we'll be right back on the Jake Feinberg Show.